it's a monkey from Chernobyl, but that's, it's a monkey. Get rid of it. Get rid of it.
Welcome to Unpicked, your unofficial Sewing Bee Companion show. It was a corker last week, Ting. Are you recovered?
Only just, yeah.
How are your cheeks feeling?
They've certainly rested since last week. That
Well,
was a special one.
it wasn't it. I think we should just finish there, really, and not do any more because from all the comments, here are just a few blown away by them. Everyone was talking about the giggles and the laughter of the transformation animal round. Let's just read a few of them here. Your best episode ever, says Nancy. The monkey from Chernobyl. Comment was priceless. I haven't laughed that hard in months. Throwing a bouquet your way. That's a thing. Life Flow says giggling with you at 26:16, where it all starts to, well, liven up or go wrong, however you want to see it. Absolutely lost it by Shaky Saurus. What a joyful episode. And then Susan goes, oh, I do love you two. Never commented before, but watch every week and look forward to hearing your comments. Makes the show come alive. But your take on the transformation challenge had me in stitches. Just seeing your reactions was priceless. Susan says, funniest show ever. Carla says, laughed so hard I forgot to throw slippers. Kathy says the episode was hilarious, never laughed so much. Hazel says, I don't know how you kept yourself together, boys. I choked on my toast. And then Elise goes, whatever you two have this week, please can you bottle up and send me some? And then Nikki saying, I laughed so much I had tears streaming down my face. It was fun, wasn't it? It just happened, didn't it?
Well, it's just one of those moments. I didn't know that was going to happen when we started talking about it,
No.
but it just slowly went downhill from the first one, didn't it?
And I think when we finished recording and we were still giggling and I was then uploading, I think I then said to you, I forgot I was on air. We were just like chatting and maybe that added something to it. We were perhaps being, just forgot where we were and it was great fun for sure.
I'm not saying we're deliberately reserved, but when we talk about garments on models, we tend to try and keep it as professional as we can.
Yeah.
But I think the toy element and the fact that it wasn't a garment, it just allowed us a little bit more freedom than perhaps we would say with some of
Indeed.
the clothing.
Yes, we didn't have to perhaps worry so much about not what we were saying or how we were talking about it because they were animals, weren't they?
Well, some of them were.
Well, yeah, and then the zip, and then yes, the pig or the bear. When you said the bear in clothes, and it was great fun. We're thrilled that we cheered up, by the looks of it, many people from around the world, but normal service now resumes. So let's finish off with the comments from Rosemary, who has got some information on the plural of octopi.
Read this, yeah.
In standard English, it is indeed octopuses. Octopi is incorrect because it makes the assumption that the word is of Latin origin, which it is not. It comes from the Greek, and therefore the alternative plural is octopodes. 4 syllables, octopodes, with the stress on top. Yeah, I've been practicing. This latter can be said as an alternative to octopuses, but octopi should not. There we go.
There we go.
So who's left? We sadly had to say, have I got rid of... I've got rid of the wrong one.
Or have you just not done it?
Yeah, we got rid of Adele.
You got rid of the wrong one.
Yeah, who have we got rid of? A Minnie. Oh, there we go. Oh, spoiler, early spoiler. Oops. We got rid of Minnie. And there was some controversy about that due to Minnie's chosen made to measure, which we did talk about, didn't we, Ting? This
We
idea
did,
of
yeah.
did they really consider the superhero and the different cultural backgrounds of where these superheroes were drawn from?
Yeah, I think that's the difficult one when, we've said it before, you leave it to an inspired by,
Yeah.
then who are you to question where the inspiration came from? And but you also then have to make sure that you have educated yourself across the spectrum.
Yeah, absolutely. So there are our six sowers all itching for a place for the quarter final, which is next week. Three left: quarter final, semi final, and the final. And it's music week. We've had quite a few music weeks. Oh, I nearly said all Suffolk then. We've had quite a few music weeks, haven't we? Over the years, are you a fan of this themed week?
Well, the trouble is, when you have a themed week that's this general, then pretty much every challenge is essentially an inspired by this or an inspired by that, um, which then just gets my heckles up anyway.
Yeah, yeah. We've talked about that many times. And it will come up again, definitely, probably in the made to measure. And then we've got the controversial transformation round, which we will talk about in detail when we get there. So let's go straight into it. The pattern challenge. They had 4.5 hours to create a
Have
Madonna.
you been
I
drinking?
don't know what. Oh dear. I was all prepared. I did it all last night as well, so I've had plenty of
Really?
time.
Because you didn't put the red square on the right person.
That's because I just rewatched it, so I was clearly in the wrong mode. Anyway, a Madonna inspired cone shaped bra. The cone shaped were quilted cups with mesh bodice with bones and zip, and they were given sort of little kits that were perhaps put together in appropriate colours for the fabric they were given. They were looking for to be precisely sewn, worthy for the Queen of Pop. It's a good costume outfit, isn't it? I mean, it caused controversy. I can't say that word. When Madonna did the tour with the Jean Paul Gaultier cones, didn't it? First time around, can you remember it?
Unfortunately, yes, I can. I'm sure there'll be a lot of people who don't, but there we go.
It looked a great make though for 4.5 hours.
Well, hang on a minute. It looked a great mate. Whether 4.5 hours was right, because again, as the different stages were being read out and the animation was flying through, I was like, "What?"
Yeah,
There was so many instructions again. It
that's
wasn't
a
a
lot.
quick make, and 4.5 hours. I know they ultimately they did it, but that was still a big ask. There's a lot of techniques there.
Absolutely. And one of the longest pattern rounds I've seen for a long while, 4.5 hours. But look at all those techniques that they were going to be assessed on: that front zip, the quilting, the boning, the use of mesh, the straps. My word. But didn't they
That's what I
do
mean.
well?
It's a lot. It's a
Because
lot.
because they all finished. Look at them.
Yes.
And that
Yeah.
isn't that saying something about the level of these six sewers now that we have?
I mean, yeah, I'm sat here moaning about the time, but ultimately they did it. But for a pattern challenge, it's normally your ability to deal with a pattern, whereas we had so many skills here that they had to deal with. But yes, equally, it goes back to what we've said, a lot of the time that these sewers know what they're doing.
Absolutely. Heather, in particular, does she really, really know what she's doing? Because was it clever to go for the leopard print on the cones to try and maybe disguise any inequalities of the quilting of the circles? Is that clever?
No, because I don't think she had any problems with that. Otherwise, she
No.
wouldn't be in first position. They would have easily picked it up, even if you had, that's what they're being judged on. So I think it's more an extent of how good she is at
Yeah.
sewing, where she is, not that she was trying to hide anything. But what I did find interesting were the choices that were made because, one of the things she was lauded for was the fact that she went for this contrast. And obviously, this is a very big contrast because you've got leopard print with red.
Yeah.
So it's quite a high contrast. Then you've got Rebecca and Emma, who essentially went for the monotone. And then we know that Beth was kind of upset because she wanted to do the whole black thing, but Anna had said she wanted to do a contrast. And that's where it annoyed me over the packs that they had available, um, because that forced Beth to
Yeah.
do that. Although, ironically, Beth has come out on top there, but essentially, Beth's and Anna's are just the negative of each other. Um, and I don't know if that really worked ultimately in the end. Although it is a contrast, I don't think it was enough. Equally with Adele's, again the green and the off white ivory or whatever.
Mm.
I mean, yes, you can see the sewing and everything else on it, but because it's that kind of, I mean, I know it's not nude fabric, but it's that sort of shade. You you can only really see the green.
That's right. Yeah.
So I know we said a lot about choices of color and how much should that come into the judging. And when you get to this stage, there should be an element of that. But there's a lot to be said about the choices that were made. And actually, Heather did really well because I think her contrast is a huge contrast.
Mm.
But actually, Rebecca's and Emma's as the single color, I think is slightly better than the other three that were trying to mix and match those fabrics and little packs up.
Yeah, I think you're right. When you look at it as a whole, as a performance, it certainly works holistically more, doesn't it? For sure.
Yeah, yeah,
It was going to be down to some of those skills, the quilting and perhaps the zip where they were going to be looked at in particular. So I think I got the impression the judges really did have to hone in on certain techniques and skills to in order to judge them. Because I didn't see the rank order as being Heather all the way up here and then Rebecca and then the others down there. They were close, wouldn't you think?
yeah. And I mean, ultimately, you are still judging. I think so. The people whose zips didn't quite match up, and there were places where the quilting wasn't caught
Yeah,
and things like that. But that's what we're down to. We're not down to the fact that some of these were unfinished or anything like that. It was having to find what you can to
yeah.
differentiate between them.
Did you have an all-time favourite out of these six?
I really liked Rebecca's blue one, but I think that's more because I just felt it was more cohesive being all one color.
Let's get that up and have a look at it in more detail. Yeah,
I think sometimes I can understand why you want to do a contrast, but having it all one color, it allows you to appreciate what's there a
yeah,
bit more. Like you can see the quilting and you can see the satin and you can see the zip without having to really look at it.
yeah. And there's a close-up there of Rebecca Zip. That's some good sewing, isn't it?
Well, yeah, because
Impressive.
like they pointed out with some of the others, it's the fact that you've got tension in the front there because
Yeah,
it's ultimately a corset. So you can think you've sewn the zip in properly, but if the tension's there, it's naturally gonna come apart at the top, which is what we saw with a couple of them.
now, we normally, as we're going through, well, was it last week? You had an 8-minute call with Minnie. Did you have an 8-minute call this week?
I don't think it was 8 minutes, it was more like 10 or 11, wasn't it? When I
Yeah.
kind of said I think.
It it started coming across like that. And I don't know whether, yeah, she just had a bad, this is Adele in the pattern round. Just felt like a big weight on her shoulders. I know they film quite quickly back to back over 6 weeks. In fact, Rebecca was on Instagram talking about this, filming 2 episodes, and then they have 5 days off, then another 2 episodes and 5 days off, and the whole process takes 6 weeks. It's got to be exhausting when you get so far as well, don't you think?
Yes, and also, like we've often said in the past, is that normally, even when you're as good a sewer as these people are, but you normally sew. when you want to, at the pace you want to.
Yeah.
Like we've said before, you do a little bit and then you go and have a cup of tea, and then you do a little bit more and you go and have another cup of tea, all of that side of it. And sometimes when you're, I've done it when I've wanted to finish a project and you're just like, I've got to get this done. I've got to, but then that's when the mistakes creep
Yeah.
in, and that's when the unpicker is pulled out, and all of those things. So yeah, filming like that back to back with not really being able to take a breath in between, that's going to take a toll. And while we might not realize that the two episodes are filmed back to back, but if this was filmed back to back with last week's one, and this is the second one, then Adele, well, all of them are going to be,
Yeah.
just a little bit too tired,
You could be
and
frazzled. Well, where
it
was
starts to
she?
get to them, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it was Children's Week the week before, and Adele was bottom for the tutu, and then but recovered with the B in the made to measure. But there we go. Right, let's move on, everyone. Right, take your seats now because we might take longer to discuss this because this came out of the blue. I was adamant that we will have no more team challenges. It was just a trial, but there was another one. Now, it really got me thinking, Ting. Are they testing out for a brand new challenge idea? Have they finally listened to the world that no one likes the transformation round? And are they developing a new round for perhaps Series 13? What do you think?
So you're going to replace it with something else nobody likes as well. I mean, yeah, I was flabbergasted. My
Yeah.
gasteds were flabbered. It was. Um, I understand what you're trying to do, but again, there were caveats put in place that then capped how well you could be and where you'd be judged and what that did, and that was reliant on other people, and that's where I don't think the fairness
Yeah.
creeps in.
But let's think of this holistically, though. Now we've had two team challenges, and a couple of messages popped up on our YouTube vids for that one when they did it a couple of weeks ago, saying it compares to Project Runway. Could it be that they are pushing the transformation round into a and it's such a well-loved program. I can understand the producers wanting to tweak it. Are they getting to the point where they're running out of ideas on what to transform? Are they hearing us just getting fed up with the transformation round? So are they trying to come up with something new? Do you think it could possibly be a new Project One Runway style challenge?
I I hope not. I think if they want to listen, and they're worried about the transformation challenge, well, go back to your roots. Go back to series one and look at what was going on. You were transforming old shirts. You were transforming, although we did have it in this one, we had bed linen. But it was the whole point of the transformation challenge originally was the make do and mend kind of mentality that you had coming out of the Second World War, where something, you got holes in the knees of your trousers, so you turned them into shorts, or
Yeah,
you made something else, or you patched them with something else. There are skills you can do, like the whole Japanese thing of where you mend clothing
yeah,
and
yeah.
all of those sorts of things.
Shashiko.
that
Yeah,
that's what you could turn the transformation challenge into, and you can have that design there. It doesn't have to be some huge wacky thing like it
yeah,
was the other week with the sail off a windsurfer or
yeah,
whatever it was. you know Nobody's going to do that, but give people ideas on what you can do with an old wedding dress, or what you can do with an old shirt or something like that. That's what the spirit of the transformation challenge is. And
yeah,
go back to it. We've seen it. I mean, it's the same production company. We've seen it with the Bake Off. They're not frightened of doing stuff that has been baked in the past, as long as you're not doing something that you did literally last year,
yeah,
so that people can think they've been sat at home practicing. Then you certainly can do the same thing, because part of that transformation challenge, if you're giving them an old shirt, is what they do with that old shirt. It doesn't have to be a shirt. It could be a skirt. It could be a t-shirt. There's still plenty of scope
Well,
for people to design.
I completely agree. And I think there's something about dialing it in too, that the design
Yeah,
concept doesn't have to be a huge one. So why can't you just have a old white shirt, for example, with a pocket on, and your job is to transform this into a more of a modern shirt? So the skills are perhaps really honed in. So do you remove the pocket? Do you pinch the side seams in to make a fit? Do you crop it? The transformation can actually be a small one, but it's still a shirt. Couldn't that's a skill in itself, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you wanted to really jazz it up, yeah, I mean, I know it would require to do location filming, but they do the odd bit here with Amber and everything like that. But literally take them to a charity shop and say, you've got a fiver, you've got to buy something for a fiver and transform it into something. Something you can still judge it
Yeah.
up and it's still a transformation challenge that is useful. I think that's the thing. What we've had over the last few years are transformation challenges that are ridiculous. Nobody's going out in a shower curtain. Nobody's going out in a
I
artist
agree.
canvas.
Yes, they've
And it doesn't help any of us sat
no,
at home
no.
who are perhaps, developing sewers and want ideas and inspiration.
Yeah, it's got
That
more
is a design challenge.
farcical.
You,
Yeah.
you know, you give someone a painting canvas or a shower curtain, you're trying to understand if they're a good designer. Now, I've told you before, I'm not a designer. Give me a pattern, I'll follow a pattern, and that is still can be sewn really well. And we've seen it with other people, people, especially not to be too derogatory here, but especially older sewers, they're so used to ripping out a pattern and just whizzing it up straight away. And there's nothing wrong with that. And in fact, that's what the majority of us do.
Mm.
There's only a handful of people who are confident enough to design their own garment and then freehand it or pin it onto a
Oh, yeah.
mannequin. So to ask absolutely everyone to do that in the transformation challenge is already,
Yeah.
a daunting prospect.
I was just like you, amazed to see this again. I thought they were just trialing it. So to put it in twice, that just speaks to me that they're testing it out. They're trialing it to see perhaps what the
Yeah.
public reaction is. And I
Well,
can
and I
understand
mean,
that, but it's
but then for those people, because I know we have quite a lot of people who don't watch the show, you were then limited on the judging. So
yeah,
we were told that you're going to be in two threes. Okay, fine. And then what will happen is one of those threes will be first, and one of those threes will be second.
yeah,
And then the one that has come second will be placed fourth, fifth, and sixth, and the
yeah,
one that's come first will be placed one, two, and three. And I think my first comment to you was, well, what if I'm the best sewer, but I'm in the worst group
yeah.
because the other two people I'm with are not great? Then the best I can hope for is fourth.
That's
I
right.
can't be first, second, or third,
Yes, they've.
and vice versa. What if I'm the weakest person in the winning team? Well, that's great for me because I'm going to come third, but there could be people in the other team who are way better than
Yeah,
me, and the best they can hope for is fourth. And that's where this sort of thing falls down. It's all right because they then said, "Oh, well, we're now judging them independently," but you'd already put them into a category. You'd
yes,
already said who was in the bottom one of the two. You were then saying, well, we're going to rank this, but then still put it all back in one big long line where the top of group two was the bottom of group one,
yeah.
and they couldn't get anything higher than that.
It
It's
it
not fair.
it is the odd thing, and you are right. I won't need to say it. That was the rules for this idea. Their brief was each team must make their outfits with a unified aesthetic, as if they are being made for a real life pop group. And then, as Ting rightly said, that's how they were going to judge it. First and second, and then ranking 1 to 3 and 4 to 6. So there are our teams. Let me go to them and we can show you them. We have Team Adele, Heather, and Rebecca, and then Team Anna, Beth, and Emma. And they did exactly the same. They pulled the buttons out of the bag, which someone's told me that's exactly what they do on Project Runway. They have buttons in a bag, so they've literally copied that. And they had to make the outfit for pop stars. And they're the two results, two different types of pop stars or pop groups. One clearly up Esme Street with the punk. I started to get a bit itchy there because I just thought, well, I can see where this is perhaps going to as soon as she said this is her favourite. But there we are, two teams. Did you have one that you went, I love that? Or one that you hated? Or did you just like go, yeah, cool?
Particularly that. Um, what I think about them is irrelevant because it was the judging that you're throwing slippers, you're doing whatever because um, the judging was inconsistent. The overall comments were that the black team had there wasn't much distinction. They all looked very samey. Like if you were a girl group, that you wouldn't necessarily have your own identities because they're all very similar.
Yeah.
The argument was that the other three, you could have your own identity
Yeah.
because they looked different and within that, and that was part of the brief.
Yeah.
And
Was.
yet they chose the
I.
black team over the other, and it was
Barney.
just like how much of it, like you've just said, comes down to the fact that, oh, Esme likes punk things, and how much should you be driven by, oh, it needs to be bows, it needs to be punk because that's what the judges
Yeah.
like, instead of going, this is what we're going to design. We're going to try and use these panels in this certain way, or and they did comment on the things like the braid and the stitching and the way they had used things to try and unify them. Um, but yeah, just trying to follow the judging,
Ugh.
it didn't then seem to match up with where they
Yeah.
started,
I'll
let
throw.
alone the fact that you then got people who were better or worse, possibly being carried by the other or not, and vice versa. It just, yeah, the whole thing.
Yeah.
So,
I'll throw
yeah, you
another
can throw
slipper.
another one as well.
Absolutely. Well, let's have a quick look at the close-ups of it. There's the team Anna, Beth, and Emma with their punk feel, a unified aesthetic. It's there, isn't
Which,
it?
which is
But
there. You can't dispute that. No.
but are they all individual compared to, as I say, the other one? And they often talked about this, the idea of the Spice Girls, where you have different
Yeah, but then
characters
this was
within.
the,
They're not different,
yeah,
are they?
no, and this was the ridiculousness of it because I think for most of it they pumped the Spice Girls music over the top of it,
Did.
which I know is not what's happening in the sewing room,
No.
but it was being drilled home, and the Spice Girls were they all had their own distinct personalities.
Yeah.
Whereas this, they're all the same person. Now that's not to say that that's right or wrong. You go to somewhere like Destiny's Child or something like that. They were all very similar. But don't pump the Spice Girls music over the top, where there were five different Spice looks, very different between them, and then not really take that into consideration when you're doing the voting.
Yeah, when you look at the brief, the team with the most coordinated and executed outfit. Well, coordinated, yet you want individuality, but still
Yeah.
unify. The two are almost conflicting against each other. Let's look at the other team, with the gingham. This, in that respect, was superior. They are individuals, and isn't it not very cleverly linked with the unified aesthetic through the use of the gingham?
It is, although even though everything I've just said, we've got two skirts and tops that are very similar here as well. There's still not a
Yeah.
massive difference there, but you know that was sort of spoken about at the start, but then wasn't really, and then it was talked about in the judging, but then the judging chose the group that hadn't made them individual, and I don't know. It just seemed a mess for the whole thing. We've got the whole group thing. We've got the way it
Yeah.
was judged. We've got the way
I
it was ended up being placed. I just, yeah, it wasn't. It wasn't a
yeah.
nice watch. I didn't enjoy this. I mean, I know I don't normally enjoy the transformation challenge, but I really didn't enjoy this one.
Well, let me go to the rank order because this is when it starts. So the top team, this was what they ranked as first, and this one was second. So we now know in this first team we were going to have a first, second, third, regardless of how poor the worst one was. So we have got Anna was first. Beth was second. Oh, I didn't put the names in the right order. Sorry, everyone.
No, you didn't.
No, this one is Beth. Anna. I did it in alphabetical order, that's why. And Emma. Anna was first, Beth was second, and Emma was third. And then over here, sorry people, this is Rebecca and Heather and Adele. And we've got Rebecca fourth, Heather fifth, Adele 6. And this is where the controversy happens in my mind, because is not Rebecca's make quite incredible for an hour and 40 minutes,
Yeah,
but cannot get any higher than top of her band? It's balmy, isn't
yeah,
it? Absolutely
yeah,
balmy.
yeah.
That should have been, in my opinion, top.
But you see, you and I, because we're that old, will remember. Well, I don't know about you, but I certainly had to do it when I first started teaching. Is you used to have higher and foundation papers,
Yeah,
and if you put a kid in for the foundation paper, they couldn't get higher than a C, even if they got
yeah,
100% on the paper correct. The highest grade they could get a C. And those 5, 6, I don't know how many years it was of my life, it was a nightmare because you always had to say, "Do I put this kid
yeah.
in for a foundation paper and hopefully they'll get 100% and get a C,
C
or do I put them in for a higher paper where they might be where they well the lowest you could get was a D on a higher
and
paper,
screw it up.
but
Yeah,
do they get a C or a D, or if they have a particularly good day they might actually be able
get
to get an A or a
yeah,
B, because they've got the potential to do that. But the minute you put them in for a foundation paper, it limited them.
yeah.
And I think that just brought back this trauma for me because it's like, like you say, Rebecca, I'm not saying Rebecca should have won, but should Rebecca have been second or third?
Yes,
It
indeed.
didn't seem fair
Yeah.
to say that she was fourth.
Yeah, I think the producers were having a chat about how they could do this. And yes, I like the idea of them working together as a group. That's a nice project to come up with a pop group. Could that not have been when there were 5 sewers left and actually just you make your own Spice Girl, but we're going to
Exactly.
see
I
it
mean,
as a group at the end?
yeah. You could still argue that that's a group challenge, but you could get everyone to talk about it
Yeah,
together, but they then go away and do their own
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
There is a way of doing it. I think, having it where the teams are judged against each other, it brings an element to the sewing bee that doesn't sit right for
That's
me.
right.
I think you're right. You turn around and
Get
say,
rid of it. Yeah.
get rid of it, but do exactly like you said, create a 6-person, girl band, and they've all got to coordinate. And then you can have that discussion. You can have 10 minutes at the start where all 6 sit down and
Indeed.
go,
Yeah.
right, well, this is what we want. And now it's our
Yeah.
individual interpretation to get that done.
Yeah. And if I then clearly was not listening to the conversation and say perhaps the unified aesthetic was going to be the use of yellow gingham in all of them, and I clearly had zoned out and didn't use any yellow gingham, then clearly I'm going to become 6th, aren't I?
Yeah,
But that's
yeah,
my fault as an individual for not paying attention or
exactly.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, you just felt that Rebecca was held, and I'm not saying that Adele's and Heather's is rubbish,
No.
but because as a group they were
Yeah.
put second, it then meant that she couldn't get anything more than fourth.
And I feel for the sewers here because they well, I know Lewis was a complete exception because he'd never watched the sewing bee before, but some of these sewers could have watched it for as long as we have. We're talking like 11 series, and then you go on it, and then suddenly you could probably cope with a curveball of one transformation round being a team challenge, but then to be in the same cohort to have another one, you'd be thinking, oh my god, this is not
No,
this.
but
I feel
I
for them.
understand the needs. Well, yes, but at the same time, I still wouldn't have liked it if it was me, but I would have coped with it if I felt that the judging was fair, or that it was going to be a fair process. Whereas, you know, I'm not blaming the judges necessarily because it's the producers that have put it together,
Yeah,
but you instantly created these 2 classes without any hope of anyone swapping around and being either or,
yeah,
and that's what causes the problem. At the end of the day, they all made their own outfit, but it came off of a discussion. But then you limited where people
yeah,
could be placed. Like you say, just have the discussion at the start for all 6 to produce
yeah,
something.
yeah.
It's not unusual to have 6 in a band. I mean, it's not great, but you could have done it for 6 because everyone's doing their own inspired outfit.
And there's also something to be said because I know what if I was doing this in the classroom, what my students would be thinking if they were bottom of the top team, they wouldn't care. I'm on the winning team. That's all they're thinking about.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
are the
Yeah.
viewers forgetting about the individuals here? And is everyone just going, I like Team Punk. Oh, I like Team Gingham. You've lost the individuality of everything as well, haven't you?
Yeah. You have. You have.
It's a mess. Producers, there's our feedback if you're watching it. For what is it? Yeah, what's the expression? My tooth, two pennies worth,
Two penner.
two penneth.
Yeah.
There we go. Because yeah, you're old enough to know about a two penneth, aren't you? Is it?
Which means there's still two P's in the world.
Oh dear. Right, let's move on to the made to measure. We will go through them in alphabetical order. A very simple brief, inspired by. So let's throw a slipper already for that. We don't even need to know what it was inspired by. Inspired by the outrageous fashion of disco. Well, that's one huge genre. Where do you start? Eh?
Well, and that's the issue, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. And how are you then going to judge where you take your ideas from and where someone else takes them from? And what happens if they don't perhaps fit with what you think disco is? And I got a bit of feeling that that came through in places. But hey, there we are.
But it always does when it's an inspired
Yeah.
round. There'll be something that doesn't sit right with the judges. There'll be something that doesn't sit right with the viewer
Yeah.
as well. There was some that I just was like, I'm sorry, I don't like it, and I know that's a personal
Yeah.
preference as well, creeping in, but that's where this has taken us because there wasn't a lot of talk about the sewing. We got one that was talked about the trousers were a bit tight, or the gusset was a bit here, but we've wandered away from the skills of sewing. It's all about what it looks like and
Yeah.
whether Esme and Patrick like it, not whether it's well sewn. We're not getting that sort of feedback back.
No, it's right. It's like I like this color or I like this outfit, and that's it. It's
And
like
that should be part
we
of
don't need
it.
to know
I'm
that,
not.
do we? Why say that even?
Well, no, it should be part of it. That is part of it because it's the same with anything. Even us sat here talking about it now. We're going to talk about the ones we liked and didn't like, but just because I liked it doesn't mean you should or anyone else
Yes, or
should have, and vice
it
versa.
doesn't mean it's
It
good
should be
sewn.
part of the criteria.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, but it should be part of the criteria because we've talked about what is the silhouette like, and if it is vaguely in this instance to do with disco, which you're talking possibly 70s-esque
yeah,
type thing, but that needs to be balanced with, oh, it's well sewn, or this isn't well sewn, or this isn't quite right. And I know that sounds really critical, but that is what we've got to go on,
yes,
isn't it? Not just whether Esme or
yeah.
Patrick find it, trying to predict whether they think it's good or not. We want some objective points to help us along, as well as our own,
I
subjectivity.
agree, and I want more from the judges to go. This like some analysis of bringing it back to their inspired by. So grade them. Oh, you were inspired by the disco ball of the disco. All right, that could be as simple as that. I have to say, I don't think I can see a disco ball in your outfit that you're
Yeah,
and judge
yeah.
it to the almost like concept. And I don't
Well,
feel
I
we
think
get enough of that, do
if you're
we?
having if you're having an inspired by round, then unfortunately, the first thing that's got to happen is what was your
Yeah,
inspiration?
yeah,
And then, okay, you've told me this, it doesn't look anything like that.
yes,
Or you've told me this and that looks really like that. Because that's your first bit. Then the second bit is the technical.
yeah.
Oh, well, your seam doesn't lay flat, your crotch is too low, the fabric's too tight, it's is gapping, it's bunching. And I'm not saying that everyone, because we've already said, these are good sewers, but that is then part of the analysis, isn't it?
Yep. Well, we've got Anna's there. We've had Anna's on screen for some time. Originality clearly wowed the judges here. It was different. It had the disco style, but it was those trousers, the design concept here. And we've often said this made to measure isn't just about making a garment now. It does seem to be heavily design based, and the sewers that perhaps go out with a design and try and wow, they may not execute it, but they still tend to be saved. This was a very original design concept, wasn't it, for those pants?
It was, but this was one of the ones where I was not overly
It's like me.
getting.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not that it's not disco, but if that's in black, would that work? No, probably wouldn't. I mean, it's a good silhouette. It's a good sew
Yeah,
with the pleats and
fabulous.
everything like that. But I wouldn't say it was inherently disco. But then again, that's what it wasn't trying to recreate Gloria
Yeah.
Gaynor's, dress. It was inspired by disco. So again, I'm wrong.
Yeah,
Or,
that's right.
someone's going to tell me I'm wrong and that it is. But there's nothing wrong with that having that opinion.
No.
But I didn't like
No,
it.
I completely get you. Yeah. And of course, it was Anna's inspiration of what she was inspired by. And I say it could have been simply silver because of the disco ball. It could be that a stronger link or it could be a tenuous link. It doesn't matter, does it?
No.
But it would be nice to be judged against that more. Adele, who went for that ABBA look, they picked on the trousers idea a bit there, didn't they? That did she need to put the pockets in?
It's an interesting one because obviously, in women's fashion, there is this whole thing about, not having pockets or having concealed pockets and everything like that. I did agree with Patrick that, in the 70s, this would have just been a figure hugging
Yeah.
thing. And it added an unnecessary step that actually caused her some issues over the fit. Um, but then equally, I thought it was a little bit too safe.
Yeah.
I didn't. It didn't look. Not that it should look overly complicated, because we've said before, as long as whatever you do it really, really well. But for what it was, when you then compare, like you've just said about Anna's and the design features and everything like that, you then look at the two side by side and go, well,
Yes.
where's the time
Yeah.
gone on this one?
Yeah. Uh,
It was a perfectly good garment,
but
but it just,
yeah.
yeah,
Beth's inspired by. She was inspired by disco, but definitely said during the chat what she wanted to make something that she would wear, that she would want to wear to the disco. That was her inspired by. Um, you can't
yeah, and that's
criticize for that.
that's the difficult
Yeah.
bit, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because she did exactly what was asked,
Yeah.
inspired by disco. That it was inspired, but I'm making it because I'm going to wear this at the
Yeah.
weekend. Um, so can you fault her on that?
No.
No. Is this something you would have found in the 70s? No. It is something that has been inspired and, tweaked and everything like that. Um, she showed off her sewing skills because the
Yeah.
top was actually
Oh,
bagged out, which is a skill in itself. Um, I
yes.
did I agree on the criticism of the colours? It was hard because if you think 70s, you think orange and
Absolutely.
like
Browns.
burnt red and
Yeah.
browns and things like that. But then is this enough of that? Because it looks more florally on that black mesh there, and that's not necessarily
No.
70s. And
No,
but
but
the colours,
in
you if you were to look up 70s living room on Google, it'd pop up and it'd be brown and
yeah.
red and orange, wouldn't it?
But you could be inspired by that. You could literally just be
Yeah.
inspired by the colours of disco. As long as you can ground that in your concept, the judges then have to mark that to it. But
Well, yeah.
that is the issue with these Inspire rounds. It was a beautiful make. Beth, I loved it. I just thought it was very cool. And that top, whew, yeah. My favourite, just because I thought, from my point of view, from disco, it encapsulated everything, absolutely everything. It ticked so many boxes, and then to be marked against that, I just thought. And I chose this shot because it didn't work well when she raised her hands. It's just phenomenal. I loved it.
Yeah, and again, you can't fault on this ground of it being inspired by disco because you've seen these types of
Yeah,
dresses and design and everything, in movies, in music videos, and everything like that. So there's no dispute there.
yeah,
I took umbrage with their judging saying, "Oh well, when she puts her arm down, so it comes down the back." Well, of course it will,
absolutely.
because
Yeah,
you can't
another
you can't
slipper.
have that shape with her arms out,
Yeah,
and it's not that shape. And if she'd have made the back slightly longer, then you'd have seen the inside of the
yeah,
fabric
yeah,
from here. So it was also like, you're not being very helpful there with the judging,
Yeah.
because it wouldn't look right if she'd made it longer. And it's just the way the fabric is. There's no way to resolve that. And you proved that because you couldn't then tell us how she should have done it.
Yeah. I just remembered Beth. Beth was inspired by Pan's people as well. You know, those dancers on
Yeah,
top of the
yeah.
pops. Um, Heather. I thought this was fab. I want that coat.
Is it a coat or is it just a
I,
rug?
I-
But it was brilliant. I loved it, and the way she got
yeah.
it to stay on.
Perhaps we'll call it
But
a
then this was the
crug.
one where she
Coat and a
yeah,
rug.
she, she'd struggled with the tightness on the
Yeah.
trousers because of the sequins and everything like that. But of all the outfits, this was the one. Well, I mean, the Emma's one there was good, but this is another one
Yeah.
that screamed
Yeah.
70s. It was like the shag pile rug. It was the right colours, the complementary colours as well, and showing off that bit of skin.
Mm,
Again in the 70s, that was where the Pans people, like you've just said, comes from. Is having that little bit, but then still, she's got full length
yeah.
trouser on there as well. I just thought that this really did hit the brief. And yes, okay, the trousers were a little bit tight, and it was a bit long in the gusset, I think they said here. But it was one of those ones where I was like, yeah, I think if you didn't really know that it was an inspired by brief, you'd still go, yeah, that's 70s.
I loved it. And I have to say, I am really, really enjoying watching Heather. I'm also enjoying listening to her, just blossoming in confidence as every week. She looks comfortable in front of the camera, talking to the judges, and just, I don't know, there's something about it. Is it me? Is she just oozing an aura of just greatness? Or am I
Oh,
just
she's
got a new
she's
fan
just feeling more
favorite?
confident. Well, you have to be careful because you're like the kiss of death on some of these. But I think it's just a case of that she knows that she's a good
Yeah.
sewer, and she's just got more confident as the time has gone on.
Bloody good on you, Heather. Absolutely brilliant. Joy to watch. And then Rebecca. And now this was, again, perhaps came down to what the judges were saying. Rebecca was inspired by a designer of that time. You see, you don't have to do classic, what we all think of as disco. I'd never heard of the designer, and then did some research, looked at it, and I'm like, wow, that is just like the designer. I just felt that was a little, perhaps that's how it came across from the judges. I'm sure they probably gave lots of feedback, but it just came across like, oh, we'll just gloss over this. It's not really, it doesn't feel very disco-y. That's how it felt for me.
Which is, it's not fair on
No.
Rebecca. It's not. I mean, like Esme, who been there and got the t-shirt in the 70s, then turns around and goes, oh well, I wouldn't have had it with the trousers. And I could understand, that, because again, like we've just said, showing off a bit of
Yeah.
skin and everything, you can do that. But Rebecca said she made this for herself as well.
Yeah.
That something that she would feel confident going. She was saying that, I wouldn't be on the dance
Yeah.
floor. I'd be, having my non-alcoholic
It's
drink over there.
right. Bless
And
her.
there's nothing
I'm
wrong
with you
with
there.
having that.
Yeah.
Again, it should be the quality of the
So,
sewing.
it's
She
right.
did a rolled hem. She did the mirrored,
Yeah.
the cut across
On the
here that mirrored
bias.
the
Yeah.
asymmetric at the bottom. It was all done on the bias, but we didn't hear all
No.
about that in the judging.
Completely agree. Another slipper thrown for that. When the judge say, I don't think it needs trousers, we don't need that opinion. Just mark what
No,
we see. Mark for us. Mark how brilliant
yeah,
the trousers are, or how not the trousers are. That's what we need to
yeah.
know. Ooh. Well, there we go. Let's breathe a bit. Calm down. Oh dear. So, yes, you said around 12, 13 minutes, I think it's going to be Adele. And it did after the transformation round. And then after seeing the trousers there, it pretty much, there was no sort of, oh God, who is it sitting on the edge of a seat, was there? It was kind of a bit flat from that point of view, I think, this episode. We just like, yeah, I think we could all know and guess who was going home. Sadly, Adele, we had to say goodbye to you. He gave us some cracking makes over the series, though, and some chuckles, too. But Adele was sent home. Garment of the week, however, I was aghast. I thought it was going
Well,
to be something else. What about you?
well, yes, because I think I said that. Oh, I can't remember which one I said. I think it was Beth's, wasn't it? That I thought it would be that one.
Yeah.
Um, so I was quite shocked.
Yeah. But when looking back, and we watch this Tuesday night, we record always Thursday nights. I can now understand the decision made because of all those concept ideas. That's where the made to measure is leaning. It's original, Anna, brilliant. Those trousers, the hot pants into the pleats coming out of it. It is inspired. It's a great made to measure. So I can understand it now, but I still wanted Emma or Heather. But yes, so let's see who and what have we got on our garment tally chart. Anna has week 3, week 5, and now week 7. So it's just nice to see. Nothing from Beth yet. How is that even possible, hey? How it goes?
I know, because, well, unfortunately for Beth, she's coming second in
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
So while we've got a rolling change at the top, we've got a fairly solid, like
Yeah.
second, third place with her, which, depending on what happens next week, even the week after, that could determine what happens with Beth overall.
Yeah. And our final slipper count is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 slippers. Absolutely brilliant. Well, there we are. And breathe, hating. That's what I'd like to say about that.
Well, we can try, but then we've got another inspired by week
I
next
know.
week, haven't we? It's not getting any better.
It's the quarterfinals. It's literary icons week. And the sewers are challenged to create their own versions of Sherlock's Deerstalker, Transform School Union. I need to go and have a beer, I think. Transform
I think you need to knock.
school uniform for a grown-up Matilda and channel their inner Jane Austen. So,
I mean, that's not going to be easy, the Jane Austen one, because
no,
I'm assuming we're looking for a period piece there, and they're not easy to make.
no, not in 5 hours either, are they? Though, is that going to play right up Anna's tree? Maybe Rebecca's tree? We shall see. We're into the final 3 though, team. We're getting there. 3 more weeks to go. Let us know what you think in the comments. I'm sure it's all going to be about the transformation round. Give us your theories on what the producers are thinking of for next year. Will it change radically? Do you like it? Do you watch Project Runway? I might have to actually go on. Is it on Netflix? And have a look. Don't know.
Don't
I've
know.
not seen it either. It's been great having your company. Not as many lols this time. Perhaps a few raised.
Much more slippers.
Indeed. Let's sit back. Though I was enjoying the bouquets, though, that we got earlier. Always a pleasure. See you next week for the quarterfinals, everyone.